My name is Peter J. Dumas, and I'm not your average criminal defense attorney. I don't help people get away with crimes. I help them get a grip. At the law offices of Peter J. Dumas, we believe in one thing: accountability with dignity. Maybe you texted your getaway driver mid robbery. Maybe you thought your burner phone wouldn't be traced because you turned off Bluetooth. Maybe, just maybe, you posted your crimes to your own Instagram story. And now you're looking at hard time and harder conversations with your grandma. That's where I come in. I'm not here to argue that you were framed by the deep state or that the drugs weren't yours. I'm here to help you say the words every judge longs to hear. Your Honor, I was a complete dillhole. We offer services like guilty plea coaching, apology letter spell check, mugshot makeover consultation, and our exclusive Sorry I Did That merch package to wear at sentencing. Because at the law offices of Peter J. Dumas, we don't run from consequences. We walk toward them, in loafers, with our heads held high. So if you've recently been a complete dillhole, don't call a high-powered shark who promises to get you off scot-free. Call me, Peter J. Dumas, attorney at law, the law offices of Peter J. Dumas. We don't make excuses, we make grown-ups.
Kiddos, keep your minds clean. This video is for adults only. Viewer discretion is advised. Well, hello there, my friend. Oh my goodness, what has happened to my camera? I gotta zoom in, man. Gotta zoom in. You're seeing all the stuff that I don't want you to see. What happened? There we go. Now it's gonna be like all jumpy and stuff, but we're gonna do our best here. Man, I just wish that my camera would not do that. It's a weekend. That's the issue. The issue is it is a weekend, and we have these kinds of problems every once in a while. Let's see if I can get this to reset a little bit. I think that's the best we're gonna do. I think that's the best we're gonna do, and I think it's gonna be all right. We're gonna push through it, guys. We normally don't do this on a weekend, but we have got a break in a case that we've been looking at for a couple of years now. This is the case of the murder of Suzanne Morphew, who disappeared on May 10th, 2020. This is in Colorado. And basically what happened yesterday is an indictment was unsealed, and late yesterday, it started while we were live streaming about oh my goodness, the case of Travis Decker. The district attorney there in Colorado had a press conference. I thought it was worthwhile that we spend a little time on this press conference, so that is what we are going to do. We are going to watch it in its entirety, and then we are going to actually read the indictment, okay? If you don't know what happened here, basically, Suzanne Morphew was a member of kind of an uppity family, right? 2 daughters, successful husband, beautiful family, and she disappears back in 2020. Her remains were found much later. Barry Morphew had been arrested. He was arrested and charged in her murder. He was never indicted. This indictment is the first indictment. I'm very sorry about the jumpy video. I'm just going to have to get past it. This is the first indictment. Now, the charges were later dropped against Mr. Morphew, and the prosecutor was disbarred for her conduct. I mean, it was crazy, and I think that he thought he was in the clear, but the case was not dismissed with prejudice. It was dismissed without prejudice, right? It didn't go to a jury. It didn't, he wasn't found guilty or not guilty, anything like that. It just, the charges were dropped. It appears that the prosecutor and the investigation team there in Colorado could not let it sit. So we're going to go ahead and come on over here to the press conference. We'll watch it together, and then I'll be going through your comments while we're watching. Here we go. did bump up the audio, put it on 2 channels.
I appreciate the members.
This is from Channel 7 in Denver. I did bump up the audio so we could hear it better.
Media that are here today. I scheduled this briefing to provide an update on the investigation that has been in the hearts and minds of the people of Chaffee County since Mother's Day of 2020. Suzanne Morphew was reported missing on Mother's Day 5 years ago.
I forgot it was Mother's Day.
Law enforcement has never stopped working to obtain justice for this mother of 2, this daughter, this sister, and this beloved member of the Chaffee County community. Through the tireless efforts of the Chaffee County Sheriff's Office, the Saguache County Sheriff's Office, the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation, I can announce today that the 12th Judicial District Grand Jury returned an indictment. The grand jury has indicted Barry Morphew on the single count of murder in the first degree. Law enforcement, the Chaffee County community, and Colorado as a whole has never stopped fighting for justice for Suzanne. Cold case homicides are tremendously difficult. They're difficult for the families of the victims and the communities who wait patiently for answers. While it may seem at times that the world forgets about these victims, I can assure you that my law enforcement partners and Colorado's law enforcement community do not forget. Every unsolved murder is a tragedy.
Hey, I want to talk about this comment from Susan Phillips. I don't have an update. I don't know if they're still standing by their dad, but during the whole first, charges against him, they totally stood by him. Now, it possibly could just be that they're like, our dad just would not do this, and they just can't comprehend it. But I'm curious what will happen now, especially now that the indictment is out. I'm looking forward to reading that with you.
And we must never give up on our efforts to find answers in these cases. My office will be prosecuting the indictment as Suzanne's remains were found in Saguache County, which is a county within my jurisdiction, the 12th Judicial District. I am extremely appreciative of Michael Doherty, who is the elected district attorney in Boulder County. He has consistently committed material resources to small rural DA's offices like mine to assist in the sometimes Herculean efforts to bring justice for victims in rural areas of our state. His commitment to rural Colorado he's continued his commitment with this case. He's provided me with the assistance of a chief deputy in the Boulder County District Attorney's Office to assist me with the investigation and the prosecution. Colorado's community of prosecutors is committed to assisting wherever the need arises. In addition to Mr. Doherty's assistance, District Attorney John Walsh of the Denver District Attorney's Office has committed to providing me with appellate guidance during the case proceedings. So today I have with me Chaffee County Sheriff Andy Rorick. I stand united with Sheriff Rorick and Under Sheriff Alex Walker. I stand united in announcing this indictment. Through this process, I have seen firsthand how deeply Sheriff Rorick and Under Sheriff Alex Walker and the entire Sheriff's Department in Chaffee County cares about this case. I am proud and appreciative of our cross-jurisdictional partnership and their hard and excellent work. I also stand with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, who has never wavered in its commitment to this investigation, providing essential intelligence and investigative resources and expertise through the years. I also recognize and appreciate our continued partnership with the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, The Colorado Bureau of Investigation has done incredible work, and their CBI agents and analysts have worked very, very hard to advance the goal of finding answers in this investigation. Here representing the CBI is Agent in Charge Chris Adams with CBI's Pueblo office. I also stand with Saguache County Sheriff Dan Warwick, who is here with me as well. He and his office immediately...
Let me address this question. Pauline Buckle says, has the prosecution changed in this new indictment? The answer is yes. The previous prosecutor, I cannot for the life of me remember her name right now, she was disbarred and kicked out of office. This is not her. This is a new prosecutor.
Answered the call to action when Suzanne's remains were found in the county he represents. Sheriff Warwick and his deputies are an essential part of this team, responding to the recovery of Suzanne's remains with the highest level of dignity and professionalism. I also want to continue to recognize what I have come to expect in my years as a prosecutor, and that is multi-jurisdictional and multi-state cooperation and partnership. I want to
real quick, the original prosecutor was Linda Stanley. The case was dismissed before trial. Barry Morphew's defense attorney at the time, Iris Ayton, stated she believed the prosecution knew they were going to lose the trial. Stanley was later disbarred in November 2024 for her actions in the case, including making inappropriate statements to the media and mishandling the prosecution. There were Brady violations. There were all sorts of violations.
The Arizona Department of Public Safety, who immediately responded to our team's request for assistance in locating and arresting Barry Morphew in the Phoenix area. Mr. Morphew will be held by Arizona authorities pending extradition proceedings in that state. And upon conclusion of those proceedings, Mr. Morphew will be transported to Alamosa County to stand trial on the indictment. This indictment has been unsealed upon the arrest of Mr. Morphew. I asked for this briefing to provide you with an update.
By the way, the date on the indictment is the 18th. We're going to get into this. So it was 2 days before she announced it, 3 days from today, but it was unsealed just yesterday.
And provide information to the community. Me and my team recognize the importance of being laser focused on the prosecution and to speak with one voice. And so for that reason, all of the agencies that have been involved in getting us to this place, as well as the prosecutors that have been willing to assist me in this investigation and prosecution, they have all been instructed to send any media requests to my office, and so that's what I'd ask of you. In an effort to be transparent, I'd like to thank the the Office of the Judicial District in this district for making the indictment immediately available, and so you can get a copy of that indictment on the State Judicial's website. It is linked on a page labeled Cases of Interest, and it's under Alamosa.
Pretty easy to find. I'll put it up.
Barry Morphew is presumed innocent in this case, and that presumption remains with him unless and until he is convicted at trial. And so once again, thank you for allowing me to provide an update to the community on this very important case.
Real quick, she's going to take some questions. Most of them are stupid questions. I understand why the media does it. As a member of the media, you have to be able to say, hey, I asked this. She wouldn't answer. So I get it. Lots of stupid questions. Do I think he'll make it to trial? The likelihood that he'll make it to trial is low, but it depends on the incentives that are conspiring against him, right? What do they have on him? How strong is their case? Will he plea? That sort of thing. All right, let's listen to these questions.
And I can take a couple of questions if you have them. Yes, sir.
What was Barry doing in the Phoenix area?
And thank you for the question. The question was, what was Barry doing in the Phoenix area? I appreciate the question, and that information was still being gathered. We have been working very, very hard to make sure that we run down anything we can with respect to this investigation, and our law enforcement officers will certainly be following that.
So she doesn't know?
Yes, sir.
was a
In the
non-answer.
indictment, you noted a pharmacology expert testified that BAM would render the recipient unable to resist any constrictions to the recipient's ability to breathe. Do you believe the dosage of BAM was so great it killed her, or that she was so incapacitated she was strangled or suffocated?
And thank you for that question.
He's asking for the manner, well, for the cause of death there. She's not going to give that. I hate those two.
I am looking forward to having our team present all of those facts in a court of law. Obviously, I would like to be able to provide my comments, but my ethical obligations will not allow me to. However, I am very appreciative of the Judicial Department for making that indictment available, and I look forward to having our team present this case in court.
That was a pretty darn good answer. Okay, ethically, I'm not allowed to tell you. So, stupid question. However, I sure am grateful that the indictment was published. Go do that. By the way, I have to say, I really like this district attorney. I should have grabbed her name, but man, she's patient with the media. She's totally willing. There's so many district attorneys that get so butthurt when the media asks them questions, as if the media has any other function. Like that's what they do, right? Our local district attorney, I love him. He's a great prosecutor. Man, he gets so butthurt. It is so funny. So yeah, watching her just handle this with grace is pretty darn great.
Yes, ma'am.
Why now?
That's a great question. And so we as prosecutors in Colorado and law enforcement in Colorado, we are very dedicated to making sure that we don't forget the victims of cold case homicides. But we also understand that it is so important to make sure that we have done everything we can to bring a case to court. And we are proud of the work that we've done. Every victim of homicide, murder in Colorado deserves that kind of attention, deserves that kind of work from law enforcement. And I would say that having the opportunity to work on these cases and to bring justice for these victims has been very important to me.
Okay, her name is Ann Kelly. She's the 12th Judicial District Attorney. That answer was another non-answer, very political. Basically, the answer is we have enough evidence to charge him. We presented it to the grand jury, and they indicted him. Therefore, we're arresting him. That's what that means.
Yes. Yeah, let me.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Was Morphew surprised at all police taking Was he expecting this?
And thank you for that question. The question is whether or not Morphew, what Mr. Morphew's reaction was. And I can tell you that that's going to be part of the case, and we look forward to presenting that in front of a jury. Yes, sir.
I can't tell you that because it's part of my case.
So the male DNA was found in Suzanne's car. Are you guys moving forward? Are you guys using that evidence?
Asking about DNA in the car.
Tell us more about that.
And thank you for that question. The indictment has a wealth of information about that
Read the
particular topic, as well as the probable cause that supports the arrest in this case. And obviously, we are going to do everything we can to make sure that justice is done for Suzanne. And that includes being as thorough as we can about the facts of the case.
Another question. When you arrest Barry in Arizona, so that's still investigating right now with Arizona law enforcement?
So the Arizona Department of Public Safety has been an incredible partner for us. They organized immediately when we asked them to respond when we received the indictment. So I very much want to thank the Arizona Department.
Which means they knew where he was. He was in Arizona. They knew where he was. They got the indictment. They handed it down, got it over to Arizona authorities, and they went and arrested him immediately. That's what that means.
Safety. What about you, sir?
What will be the biggest difference between the prosecution of this case and the time versus back in 2021?
And the question is, what would be the difference between the prosecution of this case and other prosecutions? You know, justice for cold case homicide victims remains a
That's funny. I don't think that's the question he asked. He was basically going, hey, what's the difference between the prosecution now and the prosecution then? And she's political. I bet she has ambitions to be attorney general. I bet she does.
priority in the state of Colorado, both for prosecutors and for law enforcement.
She might
And
be
that's
right.
despite any challenges that we
Big
may have
case.
had in the history of any particular case. That remains a priority for us. And so we have worked very hard to move forward in the case. This case is a different case, and I would refer you back to the indictment in this case. And we've worked very hard to move forward.
That's a very political answer. I enjoy it. I think that she has political aspirations. She's probably looking at a senatorial job or an AG job or something like that. Basically, she's like, hey, look at the indictment and see what we did. This is a very different case than it was the last time. So, yeah, kick rocks. This is Linda messed up. We're not going to mess up the same way.
Yes, sir.
On an emotional level or on a personal level, and it's okay if you repeat yourself, can you talk about the journey, your journey from the day this was dismissed
I hate
until
crappy
today?
questions like
Just
this.
Broad strokes, just tell us that story.
Well, thank you for that question. The question is, what has this process looked like, essentially? What has this process been like for the family, for the community, for our law enforcement partners? And I can tell you that it has been a long road. It has been a long road, and the families of the victim have been so patient. The community has been so patient. But I can tell you that our law enforcement officers have never forgot, have never given up, and they have been working so hard to get to the place where we are today. And so it is never enough to say we're just going to forget about it because it's too hard. And so that has been the process for me.
Okay.
And I'll take maybe one more question here in the front.
Can you elaborate further on where Suzanne's remains
Thank
were
you,
found
Sarah.
in relation to Moffett? I know it was undisclosed, but can you provide any more details about where she was found?
So it was in and around the town of Moffett, and that raises an important question that I want to address. And so the remains of Suzanne Morphew were found in Saguache County, and that's obviously a county in my jurisdiction. And so jurisdiction in this county is appropriate. I can tell you that I have reached out to and contacted my friend and colleague, elected District Attorney Jeff Lindsay, who currently covers Chaffee County. He is in full support of our efforts to prosecute this case here and has committed to providing any resources that we need to prosecute this case.
How did you know Morphew was in Arizona?
And the question is,
Question's
how?
already been answered.
I'm sorry. Can you say that again?
How did you know Barry was in Arizona?
And I appreciate that question. We obviously have never given up on this investigation, and so working with our law enforcement partners, we were able to make that determination.
We always have known where he
Anyone
is.
else possibly face charges?
So right now we have the indictment in front of us, and we're committed to working hard to get that done.
The indictment,
And this will be the last.
by the way, has the affidavit of probable cause. So we're going to go over it. Typically, the indictment doesn't. So we've got a lot to go over.
And thank you so much.
Just one last question. From a community perspective, this community's been through a lot with the district attorney's office. And we've watched you take it over and repair it, stand here with law enforcement, something this community might not have seen in the past. We've watched you build a staff. Now we're at the point where we've got all kinds of television cameras here because you've done what you've done in this particular case. Speak to what kind of satisfaction you have had gotten here, and is the job done with your staff, and can you now move forward?
Well, and thank you. The question relates to the status of our district attorney's office and how where we've been in the last 3 years. And thank you for the question. The effort that we undertook to come to the San Luis Valley, that I undertook to come to the San Luis Valley and build the district attorney's office was quite tremendous. But I can tell you that the collaboration of prosecutors across the state to assist me, to assist my staff, to assist law enforcement has been absolutely tremendous. It is a testament to how strong our law enforcement community is and how
Answer.
united
Political
the
answer.
prosecutors in the state of Colorado are. And so assisting me in building the office in the San Luis Valley, that is a testament to the assistance that I've received across the state. So thank you for the question.
Thank you for what you've done.
One last question, and when do you expect Barrymore? Morphew to show up in court?
Thank you. So he is, he's currently being held by the authorities in Arizona. He will go through a process of extradition, and when that process concludes, he will be then transported back to Colorado. So thank you so much.
All right, there she is, Ms. Ann Kelly, who, according to one reporter there, was kind of blowing sunshine, has done some good things there in the community to bring trust back to the DA's office. Let's head on over here to the indictment real quick. Let me just make sure my system doesn't. Yeah, okay. So if you have any questions along the way, Jane, thank you very much for the super chat. I appreciate that. If you guys have any questions along the way, put GF in your comment, and I will. I'll be able to see them. Okay. All right. So 12th Judicial District Grand Jury. I need on my side to go to the right place. All right. There's one charge, murder in the first degree. Colorado Revised Statute 18-3-102 1AF1. All right. Of the 2024-25 term of the 12th Judicial District Grand Jury in the year 2025, the grand jurors chosen, selected, and sworn in by name and by the authority of the people of the state of Colorado upon their oaths present the following described acts, all done contrary to the form of statutes in such case made and provided and against the peace and dignity of the people of the state of Colorado, as stated in the count attached hereto. And then blah, 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 blah. The district attorney says or charges the following. Count 1, murder in the first degree after deliberation. On or about May 9th to May 10th, 2020, or in or triable in the state of Colorado, Barry Morphew unlawfully, feloniously, after deliberation, and with the intent to cause the death of a person other than himself, caused the death of Suzanne Morphew in violation of the Colorado Revised Statutes. Probable cause for count 1 is as follows. By the way, that's very interesting that it says that he had intent to cause the death of a person other than himself. That is because in nowhere in the fruited plains from sea to shining sea is it illegal for somebody to cause the death of somebody other than someone else. I hate to talk in circles like that, but YouTube makes us do it. Anyway, okay. Probable cause for count 1 is as follows. At 5:46 p.m. on May 10th, Mother's Day, Sunday, Suzanne Morphew was reported missing to police by her neighbor. The last known person to see her alive was her husband, Barry Morphew. I thought I had a couple pictures that I didn't prepare on here. Anyway, investigators responded to the Morphew residence at 19057 Puma Path near Salida, Colorado, or Salida. It should be Salida, but they probably say, I don't know. To investigate the missing person report, the house was locked and Suzanne Morphew was not at home. Her vehicle was in the garage. Okay. There were no signs of forced entry, and her bike was missing. Later that evening, her bike was located down a hillside off a dirt road between her house and Highway 50. The bike was located less than a mile from the Morphew home. On May 14th, 2020, her bike helmet was located 10 meters off the side of Highway 50, approximately 1.5 miles west of the Morphew home and approximately 0.84 miles west of where her bike was located. Barry Morphew was interviewed and told police that he set his alarm and woke up at 4:30 a.m. on May 10th, 2020. He told police that he left at 5 a.m. on May 10th, 2020 for a pre-planned work trip to Broomfield, Colorado. According to Barry Morphew, Suzanne Morphew was still asleep in bed when he left the house at 5 a.m. on May 10th, 2020. He told police she planned to ride her bike that day. Barry Morphew stated that upon arriving in Broomfield that morning, he checked into a hotel before leaving shortly after for the job site. He told police that he received a call around 5 p.m. on the 10th from his neighbors while physically at the Broomfield job site. The neighbors told Barry Morphew that his daughters were concerned because they could not reach Suzanne all day. Let's bring that one up. Barry instructed the neighbors to check the house and specifically to look for her bike. The neighbors reported to Barry that neither Suzanne nor the bike were at the house, and Barry then instructed them to call the sheriff. I mean, that's pretty specific. Her bike, I don't know. I guess I would call her cell phone first, but okay. All right. Police interviewed one of Barry's employees scheduled to assist him at the Broomfield job. The employee told law enforcement that the employee and Barry were not planning to leave for Broomfield until the evening hours of May 10th. They were supposed to drive together. Oh, interesting. Instead, Barry left without telling the employee. Barry called the employee at approximately 11:18 a.m. and informed the employee that he had left without them. When the employee arrived in Broomfield on Sunday evening, the employee noticed that Barry Morphew had failed to bring the proper tools with him for the job, and the necessary materials for the job had not yet arrived at the job site. Okay. Review of the cameras at the hotel and nearby businesses revealed that Barry Morphew was in the Broomfield area for approximately 9 hours and 45 minutes. Of those hours, he spent less than 1/2 hour at the job site. Instead, besides 2 brief visits to the job site area, electronic evidence and cameras from businesses showed him driving around to various locations and discarding unknown items in separate trash cans. Not suspicious at all. Hotel footage then showed Barry Morphew arriving back at his hotel room and remaining inside the room from approximately 12:34 to 5:55 in the afternoon, inconsistent with his statement to police. He was in the hotel and not at the job site when he received the call about his wife, Suzanne Morphew, being unresponsive and missing. Okay, so he's caught in a lie. Guys, criminals are so freaking dumb. They're just so dumb. They're just so dumb. Listen, everything that you do in public in the modern era can be verified. Come on. Goodness sake. Well, let's see. I can take this off now. All right. In early interviews with Barry Morphew, he told law enforcement that his marriage to Suzanne Morphew was the best and that the two had a wonderful weekend together. When Barry was asked whether Suzanne would say anything different about their relationship, Barry stated no. Barry Morphew's statements about his marriage to Suzanne were inconsistent with other witness accounts and evidence located. Specifically, investigators learned that Suzanne confided in people that she was unhappy in the marriage in the weeks and months leading to her disappearance. She discussed plans to divorce Barry with her close friend. She maintained documented notes of problems in the relationship recovered from electronic devices and the physical search of the Morphew home. Again, guys, okay. Look. This is actually good advice. But, dear criminals, I don't want to teach you how to be a good criminal, because all criminals are stupid criminals in my experience. If you're in a relationship with your spouse and they are unhappy, you're arguing, you're not getting along, I'm telling you they're documenting it with somebody. Okay? It's there. It is there. And it is everywhere. Come on. Okay. Wish my camera didn't do this. This is driving me nuts. But okay. She maintained documented notes of problems in the relationship. Oh, okay, I did that. Suzanne Morphew had been having a secret affair with an old acquaintance who lived out of state. She communicated with him daily over LinkedIn and WhatsApp. Suzanne's last known electronic message to anyone was this person on May 9th, 2020 at 2:11 p.m., just 32 minutes before Barry Morphew returned to the home that day. Could that have led to some sort of confrontation? The overall timeline of the week of Suzanne Morphew's disappearance shows that the disappearance coincided with her daughter. Her daughter's names are Mallory and Macy. The only other occupant of the Morphew residence, leaving on a pre-planned road trip out of state. Okay. Oh, I get it. Okay. The overall timeline of the week of Suzanne Morphew's disappearance shows that the disappearance coincided with her daughter, the only other occupant of the Morphew residence, leaving on a pre-planned road trip out of state. Okay. So there was what they would call planning, a forethought, right? Because of this, Suzanne Morphew and Barry Morphew expected to be alone at the residence starting May 5th until either late in the day on the 10th or into the 11th. Suzanne Morphew drove the daughter to Gunnison, Colorado on the 5th to depart with her sister and friend on the planned road trip. After May 5th, let's again take a look at this. After May 5th, Barry and Suzanne were alone at the house. A forensic download of Barry Morphew's cell phone revealed that Barry Morphew had deleted a text chain with Suzanne Morphew from which an image of a single text remained. A screenshot of this single text message was saved on Barry Morphew's phone on May 6th. That image revealed a text from Suzanne that stated, "I'm done. I could care less what you're up to and have been for years. We just need to figure this out civilly." Barry, no. When you told police that she was just happy in the relationship, they would be able to find this, dude. Come on. On May 11th, authorities commenced a search of the Morphew residence that spanned several days. The state of the residence and vehicles showed no signs of a break-in or intruder. Even with no signs of a break-in or intruder, law enforcement collected items of potential evidence and DNA swabs. DNA analysis of the swabs collected produced several DNA profile mixtures consistent with what would be expected in the common areas of a home or vehicle. The mixture profiles were processed through offender databases and were compared to the profiles of known individuals who may have been present in the vehicles or the residence. The results did not lead to any stranger or intruder suspects. Okay, so narrowed it down. It's likely Suzanne, Barry, and the one daughter, probably. An expert in DNA analysis testified that law enforcement provided analysts with one of the partial profiles developed from the glove box of Suzanne Morphew's vehicle for further investigation using a keyboard search. This allowed for additional comparisons to profiles in more databases with less stringent quality control standards than the National DNA Index system, for the limited purpose of creating possible investigative leads. So they probably... maybe they were doing a little genetic genealogy here. Instead of using CODIS, for example, to do one-to-one comparisons, they're probably doing a one-to-many comparison. That expert further testified that there were matches to outside databases nationwide. The term match used by DNA analysts does not mean identical. Rather, a match only means that there were other profiles that could not be excluded at the limited number of loci available. Oh, we've had a power surge. Give me just 1 second here, guys. I have to go under my desk. Oh my goodness, guys, I'm back. Hopefully, we had a power surge here at the house. Hopefully that I'm back on the right. Yeah. Yeah, okay, I think we're back. Goodness, that was crazy. We had a power surge here at the house, and that caused everything to just go nuts here. And I guess that's one of the side effects from living in a old historic home. It's just the way it is. So give me a mic check. Make sure that you guys can hear me. Okay, Autumn, if you can just let me know. I'm seeing some glad you're backs, and we're back from Mooney. Okay, we're good. Let's. Man, I got some software that needs to restart. Let's open up my Stream Deck. Make sure that I can cycle through the old pictures. That is the first time this has happened actually on the channel. I am shocked that that's never happened before. All right, let's just make sure my buttons are working. Yep, we're good here. We can bring up lower thirds, hopefully. Hopefully. Maybe. Man, lower thirds doesn't want to work, but these work. Can we get back over to Acrobat? Doesn't look like it. Give me a second here. Let me goodness sake, where are we? Screen share. There we go. Let's go to Acrobat. All right, there we are on that. Am I going to be able to do... let's see if I'm going to be able to... Autumn was about to hit the red light. Let's see if... Yeah, comments are working. Lower thirds, though, are not. So, all right. That's okay. We'll figure it out. All right, let's figure out where we were. You know what is probably happening is my external hard drive isn't coming back online. That's what's happening there. Give me a second. You know what? Doesn't matter. We can do it without. We can do it. Just know that you put GF in your comment, and that will help me see it. Okay, let's see. Wonderful, blah, blah, blah. No signs of break-in and intruder. Keyboard search. Matches from the database. Okay. Let's start here. Finally, the expert explained that just because the profiles from those databases matched at the limited loci available for comparison, it did not mean that any of the people from the out-of-state profiles were the same person that contributed the partial profile to the mixture on the glove box. Law enforcement investigated those 3 partial matches obtained from 3 separate out-of-state sources and found no connection to the case. All right, law enforcement located a locked gun safe in the garage during the search of the Morphew residence. Inside that gun safe, law enforcement located a dart rifle or tranquilizer rifle positioned toward the front of the safe. Law enforcement also found packages of New Dart brand tranquilizer darts in the gun safe. The packages of darts included capped hypodermic needles inside of them, which were designed to load the darts. Law enforcement found one of these needle caps in the dryer after the dryer's contents were removed. Law enforcement also found men's shorts among the contents of the dryer that were removed prior to finding the needle cap. The shorts appeared consistent with the shorts Barry Morphew was seen on video wearing on May 9th, 2020, less than an hour before he returned to the Morphew residence. So the hypodermic needle was in his shorts. No tranquilizer formula was located during law enforcement's search of the home and vehicles. Hey, hang on just one second because I just realized I'm going to need something. I'm just seeing if I can get that. I think what's happening with the lower thirds is that my external hard drives were not connected, and I'm going to need that later. Okay. Going back over here. No tranquilizer formula. Police investigated numerous electronic devices from Suzanne Morphew's social media accounts searching, among other things, for proof of life. That investigation revealed that Suzanne Morphew had not communicated electronically with any living person after 2:11 p.m. on May 9th, 2020. Okay, I just have to say. She had not communicated with any living person. That might be the oddest thing that I've read in a probable cause affidavit. And I know this isn't funny. We're talking about a woman who is murdered, but we don't take ourselves seriously. We take the cases seriously. So I'm just curious. Does that imply that she was communicating electronically with dead people? Come on. Okay. Her last possible activity on any account protected by password access was 3:08 p.m., over 24 hours prior to her being reported missing. Records showing her typical use of electronics and social media demonstrated that this was inconsistent with her typical pattern of life in the days leading up to her disappearance. Additionally, witnesses indicated they attempted to communicate with Suzanne Morphew throughout this time frame, but received no response from her. These witnesses indicated that her lack of response was out of the ordinary. Barry Morphew's electronic devices. Man, what is going on with my system? Did you guys see that? I have got gremlins in this system. We're just going to leave it. We're going to leave it. Barry Morphew's electronic devices were also analyzed. A download of the infotainment system on Barry Morphew's truck recovered telematics data showing the location and activity of his truck at certain times on May 9th and May 10th. Because you are an idiot. You're driving a new truck. It is going to track everywhere you go. Come on, man. You gotta know better. And okay, listen. I'm just gonna pause for a second here. Guys, I mentioned this in another live stream. Last month was a record for the amount of views that we have seen on my channel, which also means it was a record for the revenue. I am in desperate need of new computer equipment, just desperate need. And it is showing. Like, it has to work so hard just to live stream. So I'm so grateful that you all supported me so much, and that last month we got so many views that I'm going to be able to do that when revenue comes in from Google. Oh my goodness, we have got gremlins going on, man. And they're okay. Woohoo! My lower thirds are back. Oh my goodness, gremlins, man. I need a Gremlins merch shirt. Gavin's Gremlins. Something. Okay. Based on data from his cell phone, Barry Morphew returned to the Morphew residence at 2:43 p.m. on May 9th. The data did not show his phone or truck leaving the residence again until the morning of the 10th. The download of his cell phone registered events. The download of Barry Morphew's cell phone registered events related to his phone. An expert forensic analyst determined that some of these events were in fact Barry Morphew's phone being turned off during the time frame of May 9th into May 10th, 2020. Like, I think that by reading all of these probable cause affidavits, we could teach a master class in how to be a criminal, how to get away with murder. Like, all the things that people do that they think will help them get away with it. It is just incriminating, and it shows a consciousness of guilt. It shows pre-planning. It's just crazy. Okay. Turning off a cellular device effectively disables its ability to record location information. Specifically, the forensic analyst noted that Barry Morphew's phone download showed it was turned off at 2:47 p.m. on May 9th, only a few minutes after he arrived home at the residence where Suzanne Morphew sent her last electronic communication to anyone. At approximately 10:17 p.m. on the 9th, the phone was turned back on. Barry Morphew's cell phone was again turned off at 4:32 a.m. on May 10th prior to him leaving the residence on his trip to Broomfield, Colorado, and was not turned off again until 5:37 a.m. when location information showed him on the road already in the area of Johnson Village, Colorado. Yeah, that is suspicious, man. Testimony established that the times Barry Morphew turned off his cell phone corresponded to periods of time of significance in the case where location information was consequently unavailable. Similarly, further analysis of the information from Barry Morphew's infotainment system, the telematics in his truck showed an irregular gap in recorded activities. Hey, I just want to real quick. Thank you to help with the computers. Thank you very much. Oh my goodness. Strawberry Wine, this case has a lot of gremlins attached to it. Sure enough. Goodness. Let me see if I missed any other things, because you guys are taking care of me, man. I love you for it. You guys are so awesome. And thank you. Oh my goodness. This little Mac Mini is 7 years old and it's being replaced. Hopefully at the end of the month. I appreciate it, Dr. Edward Moskowitz. Such gremlins. We need a Gavin's Gremlins shirt, and it has to have a picture of an old Mac Mini. Okay, where were we? Specifically from approximately 3:49 a.m. to approximately 8:10 a.m. on May 10th, there is no recorded data registering on Barry's infotainment system. An indication of no truck activity from telematics is inconsistent with other facts developed from Barry Morphew's phone, surveillance footage, and Barry Morphew's statements about his activities on the 10th. Specifically, telematics data showed Barry Morphew arrive at his residence at 2:43 on the 9th. It then registered various other activities throughout the afternoon at his residence until it ceased at 9:42 p.m. on the 9th. The telematics data then showed activities resumed from 3:25 a.m. to 3:49 a.m. on the 10th at a GPS location consistent with his driveway. Barry Morphew reported to law enforcement that he was asleep during that time frame. From 3:49 a.m. to 8:10 a.m. on the 10th, the infotainment system or telematics did not register any data, despite the fact Barry Morphew's cell phone indicated the device was in Johnson's Village at 5:37 a.m. on that date, and Barry reported being in his truck traveling to Broomfield at this time. When recorded telematics data becomes available again in the records from the infotainment system download at 8:10 a.m. on May 10th, 2020, corresponding GPS coordinates showed that Barry Morphew had already arrived in the area of Broomfield, Colorado. This gap in registered data is inconsistent with the pattern of telematics data captured in the days and weeks leading up to this event. Phone records for both Suzanne Morphew and Barry Morphew were analyzed by expert investigators. The FBI CAS team analyzed phone records for both Barry and Suzanne to determine location information and device usage related to their cell phones. In Suzanne Morphew's phone records, there was no indication of any user-initiated activity after the time Barry Morphew returned home at 2:43 p.m. on May 9, 2020. Suzanne Morphew's cell phone device continued to connect through RTT data with the cell tower that services the Morphew home throughout the night of May 9th into the early morning of the 10th. These automated data connections, however, were consistent with the tower reaching out to the phone to determine its location and not initiated by the user of the device. After 4:23 a.m. on the 10th, Suzanne's phone ceased to connect at all, ever again. Just 8 minutes later, Barry Morphew's cell phone data showed his phone ceased to connect starting at 4:31 a.m., consistent with the cell phone download showing it powered off at 4:32 a.m. Suzanne Morphew's cell phone never registered on any towers other than the tower consistent with the Morphew residence from the time Barry Morphew returned home around 2:43 on the 9th to the time it ceased all activity at 4:23 a.m. on the 10th. Despite searches for the device, Suzanne Morphew's cell phone was never found. Police interviewed people that knew Barry Morphew prior to his move from Indiana to Colorado in 2018. These witnesses told law enforcement that Barry Morphew was a deer farmer in Indiana. Several individuals told law enforcement that Barry Morphew used a specific tranquilizer called BAM to sedate and transport deer on his deer farm. Guys, I have a little knowledge about this. I wouldn't call it expertise, but you guys know that I've been covering the case of the murder of Kirby Carpenter. Jeff Spence, who is indicted in his murder down there in Mississippi, was a wannabe deer farmer and convicted thief of a monster prize-winning buck, and I've gotten to know the owner of that buck, the owners. And this is a thing. If you farm deer, fallow deer, whitetail deer, whatever, it doesn't matter how much you handle them or feed them or whatever, they are still wild animals. You cannot like rope them like a horse or cattle or whatever. They are wild. So you have to sedate them in order to transport them. This is information that I never thought I would ever know. And I never thought that I would learn about Boone and Crockett points, by the way, as a non-hunter. But anyway, okay. Barry Morphew admitted to using BAM in both Indiana and Colorado. Specifically, he admitted to using BAM in Colorado as recently as April of 2020, stating that at the time he had tranquilized a deer from the breezeway of the Morphew residence, which is odd. Like that's just, I'm sorry, that is the strangest story. Yeah, there was this deer in the breezeway of our residence. I got out my tranquilizer rifle. Why? You know what? Just old habits die hard. I wanted to sedate it, maybe take its antlers or something. It was weird. So on September 22nd, 2023, human remains were found in and around a shallow, clandestine grave in Saguache County, Colorado, near Highway 17. The remains were found a few hundred feet down a dirt road off Highway 17. This location was less than an hour south of the Morphew residence by main highways. The remains were determined to be those of Suzanne Morphew. The majority of her bones were recovered. Many of the bones were significantly bleached. I don't know if that means chemically or by the sun, but we'll keep reading. Along with Suzanne's bones, law enforcement recovered a cancer port and items of clothing, some of which were consistent with bike clothing Suzanne was known to wear. There was no visible perimortem trauma observed. Perimortem before death, right? Okay. Board-certified anthropologist, forensic anthropologist, a botanist, and an entomologist all analyzed the remains, and several observations were noted. This is reminding me. While I was in London, I scheduled some videos to be published while I was gone. I wanted stuff to be out there while I'm gone. One of them is a fascinating clip from my conversation with my friend, Dr. Matt Gruelle, who is an entomologist. It talks all about what bugs do to human remains and animal remains. I suggest you check it out. It's a good video. Okay. All right. There was a distinct lack of bug activity, which was inconsistent with the remains having decomposed at that location. The clothing items lacked evidence of decomposition, which was inconsistent with Suzanne Morphew wearing the bike clothes at the time that her body decomposed. Additionally, there was a lack of animal predation on the bones. There was only a very small amount of desiccated soft tissue found on a few of the bones, and there was no hair mass located. All these features would have been expected if this had been the original grave site where decomposition occurred. The forensic anthropologist opined, It was the opinion of the forensic anthropologist that based on these factors, it was unlikely Suzanne decomposed from a fresh body to a skeleton at this location. And again, Dr. Gruelle, Matt, in that video talks about the kinds of evidence that you would see. We talked, it was at the time that Gabby Petito had been found. That's the frame of that video. Okay. The El Paso County Coroner's Office conducted an autopsy. In addition to the standard toxicology testing, the Coroner's Office conducted additional toxicology testing at the request of law enforcement for the presence of a chemical mixture known as BAM, or the combination of butorphanol, azaparone, and medetomidine. BAM. The toxicologist tested Suzanne Morphew's bone marrow for the presence of BAM. All three of the individual chemicals that comprise BAM were present. Additionally, the metabolite for butorphanol was present. The presence of the butorphanol metabolite eliminated the possibility of post-mortem BAM contamination. Okay, that means, like, if I can just put that into words, I'm not an expert on this. Just if I could just try to understand this in words that I would understand. When a chemical is presented to the body, it will begin the process of digestion, basically, right? It goes through, not digestion, but metabolism. The body metabolizes it. And those chemical compounds are broken down, and in some cases are bonded with other chemical compounds that then become the metabolites. And as it metabolizes, it can change multiple times. I remember when we investigated the case of Amanda Winkowski, right? The 6-monoacetyl acetate. I can't remember the name of the metabolite of heroin. 6-monoacetyl morphine. There it is. 6-monoacetyl morphine was one of the metabolites that was not present in her body. They didn't test for 3-monoacetyl morphine. They didn't test for some of the other metabolites, but the one that you would expect from a heroin overdose would be 6-monoacetyl morphine, and it was not there, right? So that is the sum total of my understanding of forensic chemistry. Anyway, okay. So there wasn't postmortem BAM contamination because she had metabolized it. The metabolites were in her body. Let's see. The metabolites' presence also indicated that her death was not immediately following BAM exposure because Suzanne Morphew's body had begun to metabolize the drug before she died. So each drug would have a different metabolism rate, right? So in the case of heroin, going back to Amanda Winkowski, 6-monoacetyl morphine becomes heroin is metabolized into 6-monoacetyl morphine almost immediately. So in this case, they would have studies, they would have literature on what the time frame would be in order for that metabolite to be present, which could put a time frame on how long she was alive after she was administered the BAM. Very interesting. The coroner's office determined cause of death and manner of death as followed. Homicide by unspecified means in the setting of butorphanol, azaparone, and medetomidine intoxication. Wow. A pharmacologist and medical doctor testified about the toxicology testing done to determine, when they talk about testified, they're talking to the grand jury. Testified about the toxicology testing done to determine the presence of BAM in Suzanne Morphew's remains, about the chemical compound itself, and about the possible effects of that compound in humans. The expert explained that the toxicology testing done by the coroner's office met scientific standards of reliability and accuracy. He further testified that BAM is a chemical mixture of 3 specific compounds used as a tool for sedating animals for medical treatment or movement. Back in 2020 and the years leading up to Suzanne Morphew's disappearance, BAM was sold by only one company in the United States and could only be obtained by prescription from a veterinarian. BAM must be administered into the bloodstream through intravenous or intramuscular injection to be effective, as the skin and GI tract do not absorb it effectively. So they can't eat it, they can't put it on the skin, it does not absorb. It must be either intramuscular inside the muscle or intravenous inside a vein, which is the reason for the dart, right? BAM does not cause sedation instantaneously, but takes several minutes to take effect. BAM is designed not to be lethal and comes with reversal agents in the prescription kit. However, BAM is not FDA approved for any human use. For that reason, there are no scientific studies available that address the possible effects the compound would have on humans. The pharmacology expert testified that the compound would render the recipient wholly immobile, vulnerable, and unable to resist any constrictions on the recipient's ability to breathe. Oh, well, that's interesting. That is interesting. So poor Suzanne, like if she got hit with a dart, it's not like she would just fall over unconscious. It's not like the movies. Like I watched a stupid cutesy little movie the other day where like Emily Blunt takes a little blow dart to her neck. She's like, no, that doesn't happen that way, right? It has to get into the bloodstream. It has to metabolize. It has to have an effect on you. So she was aware that she had been hit, likely, is my opinion, and could do nothing about it because it was going to take effect. Oh my goodness. Wow. Okay. And then that part about unable to resist any constrictions on the recipient's ability to breathe. So, I mean, man, my mind went to a dark place there, right? That if you were to administer this dose to a person and then just sit something heavy on their chest or sit on them or something, they would, I mean, I don't know if it would be suffocation or asphyxiation. I think it would be suffocation. Crazy. Okay. Records were obtained for BAM prescriptions related to Barry Morphew. Records were also obtained for BAM prescriptions for all persons within the counties and adjacent counties to where the Morphews lived and where Suzanne Morphew's remains were located. Those records showed that Barry Morphew obtained and filled several prescriptions for BAM while living in Indiana. Barry Morphew's last purchase of BAM by prescription was in March of 2018. So that makes me wonder what the half-life is of the stuff that he had for 2 years before this happened. My guess is it's probably got a shelf life of 1 or 2 years. Barry, which just means that he would have to do larger doses in order to get the result, right? It doesn't mean that the drug stops working whenever its half-life hits. It just means that it's half as effective when its half-life hits. Anyway, Barry obtained multiple kits that each contained multiple doses just a few months before the Morphews moved to Colorado. Records further showed that no other private citizens or private businesses in any of the surrounding counties had purchased BAM prescriptions from 2017 to 2020. Colorado Parks and Wildlife and the National Park Service were the only entities that received prescriptions of BAM in those counties from 2017 through 2020. So no private citizens or private businesses, only Parks Wildlife National Park Service. Investigators learned that each of these government entities enforce tight regulations to monitor the BAM prescription storage and use. None of the BAM from those agencies was unaccounted for. Come on. Ultimately, the prescription records show that when Suzanne Morphew disappeared, only one private citizen living in that entire area of the state had access to BAM, and that was Barry Morphew. What happened to my computer again? Gremlins, man. Gremlins. This should teach me. I should not do weekend live streams. All offenses against the peace and dignity of the people of the state of Colorado. And then this is the foreperson of the grand jury, where they did mark a true bill as to count one. And then here is the defendant's information. Born in 1967, 5'10", 195, blonde, blue eyes, birthplace Indiana. Bond is set at $3 million cash only. No leaving the state of Colorado. GPS unit. Surrender of passport. Compliance with mandatory. Is that probation order or mandatory protective order? Nationwide extradition is authorized, and that is by Judge Amanda Hopkins in the 12th Judicial District, and that is the end of that. Okay, so what is the case that they have against Barry Morphew? Well, let's just summarize this real quick. One was the only one in the area of Suzanne Morphew, right? That would be number one. Number two, he suspiciously turned off his phone and her phone. Number three, he changed his plans. He was to go to the job site later that day. He did not. He did it in the morning. Number four, they were having marital issues. Suzanne was having an affair. And she wanted a divorce. She was logging the information. 5, dude had a prescription for these deer tranquilizers, and he had a delivery method in his gun safe. 6, the very chemicals that were used to what are the tranquilized deer are exactly the ones that were found in Suzanne Morphew's body. Where are we? 7, her body was moved. Yeah, I think they've got a good case against him. I honestly think that a jury will go, yeah, there's some, well, they don't have to do probable cause. They have to reach a verdict beyond a reasonable doubt. And keep in mind that what they showed the grand jury is only enough to establish probable cause. It's not their entire case. Very interesting. Very interesting indeed. Let's go over to your comments. You guys have been super patient with me. Mooney has given some memberships. Mooney, you are the best. Thank you very much for doing that. Let's see. I remember Barry allowing temporary searches. Searchers mentioned something about a new tree, but I forgot the details. He closed off access. Then there was a wildfire, and I worried she would never be found. Yeah, guy should have lawyered up real fast. He wasn't very smart. Not surprising to me. It would not be legal in Colorado for Barry Morphew to have used BAM. Only vets can. Well, I mean, only vets can prescribe it. And that is the case here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Like, deer farmers can't just go out and get it. They have to work with a vet, and a vet can prescribe it to the farmer, who then is the administrator of it. It's the same thing with some of the equine and bovine, porcine even, medications. like as a I didn't grow up like on a farm. I grew up in a farming community and worked on some of those farms, right? There are some things that the farmers always had. They, dewormers and stuff like that sort of stuff. But whenever there was some other kind of thing that needed to happen for their animal, they would see the vet. The vet could prescribe it and give it to the farmer to administer. It's the same way of getting a prescription for ourselves. We are the administrator of ourselves. Or I guess the better metaphor would be prescribing a minor child something, and the parent is the person who administers the prescription. So he could legally get it in Colorado through a vet if he had a reason, for example, being a deer farmer. It's really interesting. Really interesting indeed. All right, let me keep on going. Yeah, half-life and shelf life aren't the same thing. That is true. And I'm sorry if I got those two things confused. Typically, shelf life will be before half-life. I'm just saying that if he is somebody who administered BAM and he knew what the half-life was, he would just know, oh, well, she weighs whatever, 120 pounds or 130 pounds. That's about a small doe, right? I would normally use this, but the half-life is that, so we're going to double it up. He would be able to figure that out, is all I'm saying. He would have that expertise. But, I mean, I take your comments. Valid point. Interesting fact from Strawberry Wine, Barry was always a true crime fanatic. Well, he wasn't paying close enough attention. Let's bring our victim up here. Yep, the cap of the BAM was in his dryer that morning. That's what it said, indeed. Just refreshed. Give me a second. Dr. Edward Moskowitz, thank you very much for being so generous today. I've never stopped thinking of her since the day she went missing. Thank you, Gavin, for reading through this indictment. And I am happy to do that. And I will post it up to my Patreon account for my patrons to be able to get it. But I'm not gatekeeping it. You can go to the Colorado judicial system and it's there. It's free. You can just download it. That's what I did. If you go to Google and just go Barry Morphew indictment, it's the first thing that pops up. Okay. Perimortem means at the time of death. So antemortem before death, perimortem at the time of death, postmortem after. Gotcha. Thank you. Learned a little bit more today. You guys, we made it through it. Okay. I will be back on Monday, 7:30 p.m. Hopefully with some of these, in fairness to my computer, I was putting it through so much hard work today before we ever went live. I probably overworked it. That was probably my fault. And then when we got that, the surge, I'm glad that we were able to come back and I didn't have to start a new live stream. Anyway, guys, if you like this kind of content, please subscribe if you haven't already. By the way, best place to reach out to me is through my website. If you go to cases, I can't remember if I have a Suzanne Morphew case page back in 2020. I thought I did. It doesn't look like I do, but there are lots of case pages there. You can contact me by using this little button right here. And if you are on Facebook, and Facebook is your gem, if you click on this little fishy, that will take you to the fish tank, which is where we hang out. 4,700 of us on Facebook. So the invitation is open to you if you want to join us. With that, I bid you adieu. I'm going to go take a deep cleansing breath before I get back to work on the other stuff I'm working for you guys. And hopefully my end screen will work right now. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you liked what you saw, please consider subscribing. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below.